Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the Star Wars Expanded Universe, narrated by Legends. Sorry, Lucasfilm or Disney, whichever way you want to slice it. Legends. If you can hear screaming in the background, I apologize. Little brother does not care about being considerate of others. So what are you gonna do? That's just how it is sometimes, and I'm too lazy to do it later. By doing it later, I mean like 2 a.m. in the morning when he's finally asleep. But, it is what it is. But today we are starting KOTOR. Not the video game, but that's coming up. No, today we are reviewing issues 1 through 12 of the KOTOR comic books. Oh, and issue 0. 0. And also a couple short stories. There's a short story that I'm reading that I've not yet finished because I am a stickler for chronology, and as far as I can tell, you can read the Dr. Demigol to a certain point, but there's stuff it's talking about that I have not seen addressed yet, so I'm not going to address it until the story plays out completely through the comics. But I will talk about, portions that take place where and when and stuff. But that's about it for today. I don't know how I'm going to slice up all these parts. This is just how I decided to do it for now. So this is what we're doing here. So overall, I just want to say for these 12 issues, I'm not going to talk about them, non-spoiler wise. Every issue. I'm just going to talk about overall these 12 issues and what I thought of them, and then continue on in the next video about it. So the 12 issues, the essential gist of the first couple issues, of course, is that Zane Garrick is this Padawan. He's kind of a screw up. He's kind of a goofy, lovable idiot. Not an idiot, but he's not the top tier Jedi. He's no Revan, who is around right now. He's just okay. And he gets into shenanigans with this wonderful and amazing, funny character, Griff, and ends up late to this knighting ceremony. But when he finally makes it to the knighting ceremony, and this is not a big spoiler because it's pretty early on in this series, that's kind of the whole mystery around it, is finding out why this happens. But if this doesn't make you want to read more, I don't know what will. His masters have the Padawan slain on the floor, and now they're framing him for murder. And that's the central gist of the beginning. And then he meets friends along the way. They get into some conflicts with Mandalorians. Other adventures ensue. And all a big journey to clear his name with a con man and these 2 junkers and himself, to clear his name for the wrong crime that he's been accused of committing. And that's about the gist of these 12 issues. I'm sure more will happen as time goes on, but that will be for other videos. Overall, these 12 issues have been absolutely fantastic. The art in almost every issue so far has been gorgeous. Like in Legacy, there's a couple issues where it's like, oh, that's kind of bad looking. But there's not a single one in here that doesn't look fantastic. And the writing is great. John Jackson Miller, I forgot to mention that these are written by John Jackson Miller. John Jackson Miller, I believe, is a pretty famous comic book writer. And he also has written a couple other things, I believe. Like, we'll get to Knight Errant in the future, and I believe he did all those comic books and the novel based on that. And I believe the Kenobi novel is also by John Jackson Miller, and that was a really good novel as well. So, wonderful writing, really enjoyed it. These are definitely worth your time. You need to get this entire series. If you are a big fan of the KOTOR games, I think this is also really good because you can see just throughout all of it, it's not the focus, because that is going to be addressed in video games, it's going to be addressed in MMO game, it's going to be addressed in a novel. That stuff is elsewhere. This is Zane's story. This is his friends and his story. So, but since it is a prequel to the events of the game, of course, we do get little sprinkles, kind of just talked about in the background. We know that there's a guy who's getting Jedi to fight the Mandalorians, right? We know this. We know that there's stuff going on Terrace. We will eventually visit Terrace, So there's a lot of stuff going on in the background, seeing former masters on Dantooine and stuff, masters that we'll see in the video game, just setting up stuff. I even think one panel in the background had the lady from the second KOTOR game, even though there's no close-up of her, so I can't confirm that, but it looked like her. And so, just all that stuff's really cool. Just, continuity, connecting the world. I believe we'll discuss in spoilers, but there's a character I went, this person, that sounds like KOTOR. And I loved it. It was absolutely fantastic series so far. I'm so excited to continue reading it. In the last video I gushed over Redemption, and so far I still do, just as a story-wise, like the deep message that's trying to tell and the beauty of it is still there. This comic is really funny. A lot of people have said this would work as a TV show. I would have to agree. In a world where Legend still existed, getting like a teen for mature, I don't think you need to make this rated R, but like a teen show, like a TV 14, right? Focusing on these characters, I think would be wonderful. And the whole premise just like hooks you from the get-go, and it's really, really fun, and I'm really, really enjoying it. As I said, though, I still think Redemption's the best thing that I've read so far in terms of like emotional and in terms of the writing. I mean, the writing in this has been excellent too, but it's just a different sort of feel. But I mean, I guess I'll give my overall thoughts on it once I finish the entire series. But overall, fantastic. If you have not read these, you're doing yourself a disservice, especially if you like the games. Go. You'll appreciate this. And yeah, I'm getting to spoilers now. If you have not read the series, click off. Go read it. Go. Leave. What are you doing here? Leave. Last warning. So either you veterans or those who don't care about spoilers, we're going in. Not too deep or anything, comic books and all, but anyway. So first I'm talking about issues 0 to 1. Kind of putting them together. But the Mandalorian Wars have already begun by the time we start this novel. We don't get to see that begin. It just is kind of already happening. We're introduced to Zane Garrick, who is going to be our main protagonist for this series. We get introduced to a character, is nicknamed Squint. Squint, we will talk about again in the future. But Squint is trying to recruit Zane to fight the Mandos. That's just kind of what we get introduced to in Intro 0. He's bald, by the way. Don't know if that's important to anyone. I'm just trying to give you a hint beforehand. Of course, if you read these, you already know. But, yes. Anyway, then we get, we also learn that, like 30 years, it's been 30 years since the Sith War threat. So this would be 20 years after Redemption. Zane chases a criminal by the name of Griff and crashes a meeting. The meeting's going on with the Jedi Masters and his Padawan friends, learning about they're about to be knighted. It's Zane's master. Lucian reminds him not to be late. Of course he will be. Then Zane Masters murder the Padawans, which was just that whole panel was fantastic. Walking like, sorry Masters that I'm late. All of his friends dead on the floor. You're late. Like it was so good. But that is basically issue 0 to 1. Then we get to issue 2. Zane is now framed for the murder of the Padawans and is on the run. And that's pretty much all that happens. I mean, there's, shenanigans going on, but that's the gist of the second one. Issue 3, they're still on the run, but this is where we get introduced to Jeriel and Camper, and they're going to be our 2 Arcanian friends for this adventure. We get, so we have our new ragtag team. As I said, we have Zane Garrick, we have Griff, who's a con man. Think like a very, I forget the term, but, think like a worse version of, like Lando, like a worse version of Lando and Han. but not evil, but just worse on the scale of bad, I guess. I don't know. And we get to issue 4, and the Jedi Masters, they, the Jedi Masters on Dantooine, don't believe Zane, and I just gives me more reason to dislike the Jedi Masters from Dantooine, because later on, we'll learn the depths they'll go to get their way, and you can make arguments that they're justified in doing what they're doing, but as we know from the KOTOR games, they actively choose to make someone lose their entire memories to use them as a pawn to get their way. They make, Revan forget who he is just so he can hopefully help them find the Starforge and stuff. But, I don't know. They just kind of are all hypocritical and sucky. And we get to issue 5. Masters have a vision of death and destruction. We see a flashback where we get to learn kind of more the motivations for why these 5 masters are doing what they're doing. They believe, they speak about being Jedi Masters and why that's so important and stuff, but the issue is that they're letting fear drive them. Their entire pact that they've created together is based on fear. The Sith Wars were really traumatic, and they don't want another Sith Lord to ever appear. So they have this vision, and they decide the best way to go about this is we need to kill our Padawans. Kill the Padawans, we don't gotta worry about Sith Lords. Only problem with that is they don't know about Darth Viete, which I hardly know anything about, but I know he's from the Old Republic stuff. And then Revan, who is the one that's, that we first see chronologically be a new Darth in a long time. So it's kind of, they are leaping into the dark side by trying to stop the dark side. Jeriel and Arca are the same species, which I didn't realize until just now, but they look kind of different now, but it's just the art style, I guess. But Arca, who was Eula Quadroma's master, is also an Arcanian. So the 2 friends that we have in this series are of the same race as that guy. At the end of issue 5, Zane decides to turn himself in. Also, I forgot to mention, in between issues 4 and 5, we have a short story called Interference by John Jackson Miller. It's basically just a bunch of fun little radio broadcasts between some person at the Republic and some Mandalorian. We later learn, it's not really a big spoiler, it's a really short story. If you don't want any spoilers, though, if you're in the spoiler section while you're watching this, well, I guess I should have talked about it before, but whatever. This is where you replace a short story chronologically, is in between issues 4 and 5, and it's some guy pretending to be a Republic soldier. This is also, I believe, the first time we get a mention of Cassus Fett, and the first time we also learned that not all Mandalorians are Mandalorians, and that the Mandalorian culture, they will adopt you. Just like, if you adopt a kid, they become a part of the family. Well, Mandalorians, human beings, in a sense, like if aliens existed, and you got an alien and you took it into your home, that would become a part of your family. Well, they're saying you are a Mandalorian if you accept our beliefs and stuff like that. So we just get a slight mention of those 2 things, which I already knew, but chronologically, this would be the first time you get to learn that. I also have notes on Dr. Demigol, the Secret Journal, but I'm not going to talk about it because there's stuff that's in there that I have not seen in the comic book, like it's saying how he's hiding on a ship and how they haven't noticed him yet. And I'm like, well, I haven't seen anything about that, so I'm not going to mention it until it's all been done and relevant. So that's about that. We get to issue 6. Because of what Exar Kun became, the Masters want to make certain it doesn't happen again. Just reiterating what I said before. Problem is, the Sith to be are Revan, which I also mentioned. Jeriel rescues Zane from the Masters. And then Jedi Masters abandon Terrace due to failure and sets up the Terrace that we will visit in KOTOR. because the Jedi Masters leave because the Jedi on the council are upset with them, and so they have to leave, and that leaves the way for the Mandalorians to attack Terrace, and then what Terrace will eventually be like when we get to the KOTOR game. Also, by the end of this issue, Zane does a very, I'm sure it's just a coincidence, but at the end of like an episode of The Mandalorian in Disney canon, the Mando is like, hey, you have baby Yoda, so I am going to come for you. I'm going to hurt you, And at the end of this, Zane, he vows to get them all. He's like, I'm going to track you all down until you repent and tell the truth about what you guys did and how I am innocent. When we get to issue 7, Zane and friends con. They con this outpost so that they can get supplies, but then oopsie, Mandalorians show up. And so that's a whole thing. And then issue 8, the Republic officer mistakes Zane for a Mando operative. And so this Republic officer goes to attack him, putting Zane in further bad light. And then I just thought it was cool. I think I've heard this word before, but Hatan, the Mando word, means coward. Jedi leaving Terrace, as I said, makes Mando's advance. We get to learn a little bit and meet Dr. Demigol, who's a really cool scientist, Mando guy. As I said, we will discuss his short story when all the stuff has been addressed in the comics. And if it doesn't, then I'll mention it. Issue 9. Zane and this Mando that we meet in the last one, they infiltrate this base and knock out Demigol. Griff and the Boom Boom. So Griff pretends to be this, I think it pretends to be a Republic officer or whatever, and they'd set up a bunch of charges to blow up, hey, we got men everywhere, they're blowing up your stuff or whatever. I don't know, it's just really fun. I love how Griff, comes up with all these cons and stuff. He's a really good comic relief, and I really like him. And then Alec. Remember the guy I talked about? Runt? Remember him from issue 0? The bald guy? It took me a little bit. I went back to the issue page because I was dumbfounded. I was like, what is that? Why do I know that? Alec. Malik from the KOTOR games. Malik, who becomes the dark apprentice to Darth Revan during the war. Malik, who will betray Revan, so that way the Jedi end up capturing him, erasing his memory, and making be who you play in KOTOR 1, and him being the main antagonist. We get to see him here before any of that. That was really cool. So I just had to mention that big connection to the expanded universe. Issue 10. We get a flashback that goes from 30 years to 25 years and stuff like that. We basically get to see a little sliver of Lucian and others' earlier years. So we get to learn, more about him. And then also the Jedi Council refuses the Master's requests. The Masters of all the people, all the Padawans they slaughtered, they want to go after Zane. But the Masters of the Council won't let them. And then we get to issue 11. Oh, I forgot to mention. There's a man, I don't know if it's a man. Someone is in a hooded robe is talking to the council, and they are upset with whatever for having people attack the Mandalorians when they shouldn't. What am I left to conclude? I am left to conclude that this person that we meet for a solid couple panels is Revan. Now, I don't know for certain because they never say his name, but I'm inclined to believe that, which is really freaking cool. It's just a little thing. As I said, this is Zane's story. This is brand new character story, expanding universe. We get to have other people. Revan will have his time to shine. but still, regardless, it is just connecting the dots of stuff that I already knew about, making the continuity just feel like this is a living, breathing universe. That's what I'm saying. We get little sprinkles. We hear about the Revicanism movement or whatever. We get little sprinkles of what's to come, and I appreciate that. For people that have never watched Kotor, it won't mean that much to them, but they can still enjoy these comics. And then for the people that have played Kotor or read Revan or played the Old Republic, that's something more for them, and I really enjoy that. Anyway, on issue 11, the Momo brothers, two Ithorians, they attack this banker that Griff and friends are trying to con. The banker turns out to be Zane's father. And then we move to issue 12, and Zane finds his father after fun bar scene. In this bar scene, basically, Griff talks his way around to make, and these Ithorians aren't the smartest Ithorians in the world. They're kind of outcast too, because the way the Ithorian culture is that the majority of them tend to be pretty peaceful. Most of them are peace-loving people. They're not very big on fighting, but you have your outliers, and these are two of them who are kind of like bounty hunters, but they're kind of stupid. The more fun stuff of Star Wars, and so Griff finds a way to convince the Ithorian, that the Momo brother, that he needs to go, that they have Zane's father, and that Zane's actually a higher bounty. And then basically by the end of the comic issue, we have the two brothers punching each other, and that's how our heroes get away. And it's just fun stuff like that. And it could get into stupid kiddie territory, like some of the Clone Wars episodes, or especially Rebels, but it's handled in such a way to where it's fun, it's funny, but it's not so silly that you just can't take it seriously. I'm sure when I read the Droids comics and the Ewoks comics, I'll have fun with it, but I'll say without a shadow of a doubt that this is stupid, right? But, I guess the difference is that a lot of, Rebels or whatever is trying to take itself. I'm not trying to be a hater. I didn't personally, the episodes with Ahsoka confronting Vader, I enjoyed it. But what they should have done is had Ahsoka die, not stay alive and then be alive in Mando, which is 5 years past Revenge of the Sith, and then Return of the Jedi, and then you go, where was she when Luke and friends were going against the Empire? She just decided to slide off and not bother? I don't like that. She should have died, as George Lucas wanted. She should have died. I don't hate her character like some people do, but she should have died. That would have been much more impactful. Either before, Anakin became Vader, to further show his descent, losing a sister, losing a mother, or a surrogate sister, losing his wife, then Darth Vader. Or if he's going to become Darth Vader and she's still alive, then him as Darth Vader has to strike down what he thinks may be the last bit of humanity left in him, and it's not until his son that he'll be redeemed. Anyway, off track. I'm sorry. Main point is, this series has been really fun, and there are some really serious moments, that, I had chills, when you see a bunch of these. I didn't even remember that. I didn't even, because I've watched, Matt Wilkins videos. I completely forgot that was something that happened in his comic. So I started, and I'm like, hey, Zane, you're late. As they have their lightsabers out and all their Padawans are dead. That was great. But it's also really, really fun, and I appreciate that. And then lastly, there's a short story called Labor Pains that you would read before issue 13 and after issue 12, by John Jackson Miller, again, because everything in this era is apparently John Jackson Miller. I don't have too much to say. It's a short story. You should read it. It's pretty fun. It just proves, because it's from the first person perspective, and it's just, Griff trying to do a con, and I just love Griff so much. He's so fun. And then I just also like kind of how, despite the fact that he's kind of been betrayed by his own order, that Zane remains as the D&D term would be, pretty lawful good for the most part. He doesn't like to con people, so Griff's got to find these elaborate excuses for why it's okay to do to these people, because these people are bad, or these people were going to con you, or stuff like that. And I like their dynamic. It's really fun and funny, and I just am having a good time with this series, and I want to stop talking about it so I can read more of it. But that is pretty much it, guys. If you enjoyed this video, give it a thumbs up. Let me know what you think of these comics in the comment section below. And let me know what you think of KOTOR, because I've seen it, so you can spoil the hell out of that, because I've played the entire game. But seeing as how we're getting to that, and these comics have the same name as that game, curious. But that's it. I'll see you next time. Until then, may the Force be with you.